the crew of Apollo 12, astronauts Pete Conrad, Alan Bean, and Dick Gordon. Traversing the lunar surface with Conrad, Alan Bean, his first space flight. Born in Wheeler, Texas, Bean was a Navy test pilot for several years before joining NASA.
Three, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Commit. Liftoff.
Apollo 12 lifted off in the driving rain.
Pete Conrad reports the yaw program is in.
A pinpoint landing was critical to this mission and all future flights. With this in mind, the two space pilots set the landing craft down within 600 feet of the unmanned Surveyor 3, which had landed there 3 years before. In addition to inspecting and removing pieces of the Surveyor for return to Earth, the pair collected about 90 pounds of lunar samples. They also set up 6 scientific experiments, which, among other things, will record moonquakes, measure the lunar atmosphere, and analyze the solar wind. En route back from the moon, the 3 astronauts witnessed and photographed for the first time an eclipse of the sun by the Earth. The splashdown of Apollo 12 was almost as precise as their moon landing. The Yankee Clipper landed 3½ miles from the carrier Hornet.
beautiful.
Thank you very much. I enjoy being here. I enjoy being an artist, and just this environment is so perfect for an artist. It's very quiet.
Yes, sir.
I have some of my paintings on the wall at the ones that I think are the best, so that whatever I do next is hopefully as good as that. Sometimes it's not, but I'm always trying to do it. Come on in.
Thank you, thank you. I see like the texture on these paintings. Are those like your boot prints?
Those are boot prints. I've always liked texture. Let me show you how I do it.
I would love to see this.
Okay, first I start off and I imagine the painting, what it's going to be like.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to tell a story of some kind. Picture, I say, I got to get some texture. So I cut a board like this. It's a plywood that you make real wooden airplanes out of. Then I get a texturing material called modeling paste and put on here. Then I get a moon boot. Now, I can't get mine because we left ours on the moon to save weight, but this is just exactly like the one I wore. And then I said, you know, I'm spending the rest of my life doing these paintings to record what we did on the moon, so it'd be the right thing to do to make them as good as I could. If I had known, these are the first paintings ever in all of history, all of art history, from a place other than this earth. Now, someone on this earth has imagined what it would be on the moon and they painted it.
Right.
But I'm the first artist ever to go anywhere else. And these are images from this other world. Well, anyway, I'm glad you came to visit, Johnny, because I'm proud of this. I'm proud of it to be part of NASA, proud to be Well, I felt I was one of the luckiest guys on Earth, particularly since my profession was flying airplanes, and then it looked like a more advanced way to do airplanes was do spaceships, and then more advanced than that was getting a chance to land on the moon. So for someone in my profession that has the interest I had, which most of the astronauts of my day did have that thought, then it was wonderful. It was like you won the lottery, only even better. And when you figure we went 240,000 miles and to land right within, maybe perfectly or within 10 feet at least of your target, that's pretty amazing. Shows you the kind of capability that NASA has. And we didn't have that capability after Apollo 11. We landed them within a couple-mile radius. Very difficult job then. That was the first landing. But then we went next as Apollo 12. And it shows how people in mission control and the tracking sites and the computer areas were able to refine what we could do. One of the things that I've loved about NASA is it never sits still. To the outside world, it sometimes looks like NASA's doing the same thing over and over again, but it never does. It's always some refinement to make it better, more accurate, more efficient, things like that. I always felt like the best people in the world that cared about being associated with spaceflight were in NASA. So it wasn't like I would be thinking, boy, I wish we had somebody else working down there, because I knew the very best in the world were there. And that's been true, it's true even today, in my opinion. I have the fondest memories of that particular mission, even perhaps more than Apollo, because I was a more skilled astronaut by then, and also it's a lot more difficult to stay in space and be motivated for 2 months than it is to go on to the moon for 10 days. Going to the moon for 10 days is like going to Paris for your first visit or something. It's good. Every day is different. Going up in Skylab is like the space station now. Hats off to the people that fly the space station now. It's day after day of hard work, and even though you have a nice view out the window, that doesn't kind of pay you back for the constant effort that you have to put out to be productive in space. People have no idea the pressure that's on an individual on a space station to keep it running, to do useful work, and then the next day they get up and got to keep it running and do useful work. It's a tough job, and only dedicated humans can do this sort of thing. After Skylab, I began to say, you know, I've seen sights that no other artist in all of history has ever seen, like the surface of the moon. If I could paint that well enough, maybe I could do something wonderful in the art world. Leave some paintings for future generations. I know stories that aren't printed. So I had to go back to school and develop my skills, and then when I did, I began to tell stories that I knew, some of which were already recorded. I just told them in a different way, artistically, and then other stories that would be lost forever. My theory is they should have taken an artist along with Christopher Columbus, because that would have been a nice thing to know what happened when he got there, what the other captains of the other ships looked like, what the crew looked like. We don't have that. All we got is words. So artists are nice things to have around. Now we've got television and photographs and all that, and that's good too. Art doesn't replace any of that. It just further celebrates one of the great human accomplishments. NASA and using with contractors 400,000 people in Apollo accomplished an impossible dream.